Okay, so first things first, go ahead and go into Eden Editor, find ourselves a map. I think we'll go ahead and go Takistan, it's already on there. And then once you're loaded in here, go ahead and go into Attributes. This is going to be the backbone of your mission. Go to Multiplayer, disable the AI. You're never really going to want that to be enabled. Your respawn, you're going to want to set that to respawn on a custom position. And then you're going to want to turn your respawn delay up to 5 seconds. If you don't do that, they'll end up respawning, I believe, on their bodies. So that's a very important thing. I always turn on the vehicle respawn delay to 5 seconds as well, just in case I ever put one down in a mission. In case I forget about it, it'll at least have the 5 seconds on it. You can disable their manual respawn, scoreboard, and you can also enable save loadout, which means whatever loadout you give them in Eden is the loadout that they'll respawn with whenever they die when you're playing the mission. If you want to set this up for multiple spawns, then you're going to want to select respawn position. Obviously, there's a whole host of things you can do in here. Respawn loadouts, you can respawn them in waves. Mission fail when everyone's dead. A whole bunch of spectator things. Single player death screen, tickets. We're just going to set it up to be a normal kind of respawn. We'll set it up for multiple respawns in case you play summon Zeus or something like that. Always good to be cautious of things like that. And then going back to attributes into general this time. Scroll down to the MISC drop down menu. I believe some of these are overrode by the server. But I always like to do them anyways, just in case. So edible objects for Zeus. So this will just check periodically for AI, vehicles, interactable objects, things like that, and make them editable for the Zeus. Very helpful. If you don't enable this, you'll have to, at least with our mod list, either right click, add editable, and then you can select playable objects and all sorts of things, or put down a module once you're in Zeus that adds edible objects, essentially the same thing. Hide friendly units, hostile units, hide mines, hide tactical pings. These are all things that I think are overrode by the server. But I always do the edible objects in Zeus as well. If you're making missions for us in TFI, do not binarize the scenario file. This makes it easier for us to mess with it if we need to touch it at all. Okay, and once you finally... Oh, okay, well, hold on a sec. We can turn off the fan too. That's probably a good idea. Once you find a good area on the map that you want to set up at, I chose the airfield of at the north side as Rasman. Get all your AI placed down, whatever you choose. Vehicles, objects, and stuff. I chose 2 sort of section-sized elements and only 1 Zeus slot. And then I put down a tent here for like an arsenal kind of arming area for them to have. And then this tent to kind of separate the preparing area and the briefing area. And then some vehicles as well. The style of this mission is going to be a patrol op. My plan with this is to build this mission and record as I go and walk through everything as I do it, and then record the actual op itself. So it's a whole complete how to make a modded mission sort of series, if you will. You'll notice none of these players or units, I should say, are playable. And seasoned veterans of making missions will notice that neither of these objects, as well as neither of the vehicles, are either dynamic or completely simulation disabled objects. I'm going to go over all that right now. For objects and stuff, I try to place those first whenever you're making an area. This helps when you're done. What you should do when you're making an area is select the special states in the attributes menu of whatever objects you're placing down. You can do that by right-clicking and going to attributes, or just double-clicking it. Double-clicking I find is faster and easier, and just overall more efficient. Yeah, but you want to go to special states, and disable simulation. Depending on where this is, you're gonna want to disable damage as well, since this is a base that I won't really want them to be fighting at. I'm going to be disabling the damage as well as the simulation on both of these tents here. Now I will not disable the simulation on these vehicles, because if I do that, the players will not be able to interact with them in any way, shape, or form. They will not be able to get into them. They will not be able to get out of them if for some reason they're inside of them. They cannot get into the inventory of them. It just turns into a sort of static, aesthetic object at that point, which sometimes is something that you want to do with vehicles. For this one is not what we want to do though. So for this one, you have a lot more options, you'll notice, for vehicles. The only one we're going to be touching for today is the dynamic simulation. We're going to make sure that's turned on. What this does is makes it so that these vehicles, if there are no AI or players around them within a certain radius, then they will not be simulated. They'll be turned into static objects like these tents here. The difference is the server knows that when a player gets close, it needs to turn that simulation back on so that the players can then interact with the vehicle again and open the inventory, get in and out of it, shoot from it, whatever they might do. Yeah. Moving on to the players. You're always going to want to make sure you have your respawn placed down first and foremost. You're going to want to double click this or right click and go to the attributes, either one. Then all the way at the bottom, you can name your respawn. So I usually name mine base or airport or something like that. And then your side, you're going to want to make sure your side is set to whatever side you have them playing as. If it's set to leading side, it might work, but 90% of the time it will not. Always just safer to just go with the side. Show to, we're lucky with our mod list, we can show to only the side. So if we're doing PvP ops and stuff like that, you can do that. I know for vanilla, I don't think you can. But yeah, benefits of mods. For the arsenal box, what I usually do is I'll put down a supply crate. I usually go with the IDAP one. Bright and orange, easy to spot. Everyone knows what it is every time. Hard to mistake it for anything else. I always disable damage on this box, because if it gets damaged, it will fall through the map. If that does happen to you, you can select it, hold your left mouse button down on it, and alt drag it up to the surface again, repeatedly, usually 3 or 4 times, and then it'll stay on the surface. If you don't do that, it'll fall to the bottom of the void underneath the map, and I believe despawn or get stuck down there in some way, shape, or form. So always disable the damage. You never know when players might be dumb and do something stupid. Usually I'll do dynamic simulation too, just because overall on larger missions, the more objects that you do with dynamic simulation, the better the frames are. Or disabling simulation entirely is preferable. That helps with frames tremendously when you're making large missions that you want to have kind of decorated with things for the players to look at. Anyway, point is, when you're doing objects that you want the players to interact with, usually those are the objects you want to have be dynamic. Objects that are mainly just there to kind of look at or be pretty. Usually you want to turn off the simulation. You do want to be careful turning off damage though. It will make buildings bulletproof and windows bulletproof. Sometimes that's a desirable effect. Sometimes it's not. But yeah, objects that you want them to be able to access inventory of, move around, um, vehicles, things like that, buildings with doors, ladders, anything like that are sort of dynamic situation objects. Um, Barbed wire, H barriers, like these walls right here. If I was the one that placed these, you would see all of them with that little red square, which means that the simulation is turned off. Uh, Light posts, trees, bushes. Um, some of these buildings don't have interiors, like this one. This one doesn't have interior. Those buildings turn the simulation off on. Um, yeah. Final step here. Go just make your people playable. Easiest step ever. You can go in and customize each one of these guys' kits. I usually opt out of doing this and have a script that I run that I found off of a YouTube video. If I figure out where that's at, then I'll link it down below as well as the script. But super simple to use. You go up to Tools, Debug Console. I have it in here constantly, just always sitting here. You run this. It takes all of the playable units, so it'll take their guns, their uniforms, their helmets, everything they have on them, throw it into a format that an arsenal would like to accept, which is this orange thing right here. And then we can go ahead and just go in and attributes and import it down here. Yeah, which we can go over right now. Actually, we can do that right now. So these are all the guys I want to use. Let's see, our medics here. I don't believe I put medical on them. If you're making missions for TFI, you always want to make sure you put medical if you're using the script that I use. I'll usually put like one of everything on just one of the people. You don't need every blood type, just the one that has no blood type. The different milliliters, you have 1,000, 250, 500 different blood types. Don't matter, we don't have those turned on with TFI. But yeah, just go through, add one of each. I'll usually only stay in the medic bags if you can help it. A little bit annoying for them when they log in, but they'll have everything in the arsenal when they go to make their kit. And it's as simple as just hitting this for them to empty out their bag. So, very worth it. Some things like enzyme capsules, this is for a zombie mod that we have. Don't always need that. You can add it if you want. Most of the time it just makes people spooked. So, not worth adding it. But yes, I'll just go through and add all this. And then when I get done, I will make the arsenal, run the code, and we will go over the arsenal. This is gonna take a fucking while, man. God damn. These backpacks are small. Very small. Okay, that's all that. Oh, I also forgot to mention, you always want to make sure to include earplugs at the very least, and your arsenals. This is just a quality of life thing, helps with noise. The player base will thank you for it if you have access to it. Yeah. Some other things that you might want to include, entrenching tools. Most of the time, use them all the time. Maglite, map tools, depending on the mission. If you don't give them a GPS or anything like that, map tools are very useful. Yeah, the rest of this is kind of just generic EOD or job-specific items for marksmans or anything like that. Also, another thing I forgot. Down in communication, you'll make sure you want to give them a AMPRC 152 if you're using TFAR as your communication, so that they can communicate between each other, as well as a long-range backpack radio for the team leader here, and the squad leaders. So we'll go ahead and give him a radio bag here. 10 should work fine. We'll probably find a better one for that later, but that works for now. Okay, we'll leave them with the ammo they got. They should be fine with the ammo they got. I'll double check it real quick. I'll give them the tracer every 4. People like that. Yeah. We'll give them that. But they should be fine with the mags that they have access to. Cool. So that's all the medical. So then we'll go to tools. Debug console all the way at the top. You paste it in if you already have it in. I already have it in though. You just run unscheduled. I usually run it 2, maybe 3 times, just to make sure it actually ran it. And then you double click or right click to go into the attributes of whatever you're using as an arsenal. Then you go ahead and just click import, and you'll see everything magically appears. You should have most of your items. Some items won't go in. Like I think we're missing the actual M4, if I'm not mistaken, just from a quick glance, because we have the pistol there. Yeah, so it looks like we're missing the guns. The M4 and the saw, but it looks like it did include the ammo. That's strange. We'll load in and see if that's actually like that or not. Another thing that I've not been doing, which is bad, always periodically save. Or if you're making a new save, make sure you save it in the very beginning, so that's doing its autosave throughout you working on it. If you crash Alt F4, anything like that out of a mission, it'll only go up to wherever your autosave or your manual save was at. It will not save anything else. And even then, I would be very cautious with Alt F4 and out of it. I would always escape and go the manual way out. But we will name this tutorial mission, I guess. And I believe we're going to do a convoy mission. I think that's the idea. But we'll go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to load in real quick. But before we do that, we'll go ahead and set up our Zeus module. I usually type in Zeus. You could type in Game Master, whatever you want to get to this. I always go A. You can name it 1, B, Joe, however you spell it. Just make sure you spell it the same way on the next item that we're about to go on. Default add-ons, I usually drop this down and do including unofficial ones. That just makes sure that all the mods and unofficial content that you're using is in the Zeus interface. Forced interface, usually don't do that. I prefer to be able to be in person in my actual Zeus form, like as a commander or something like that, to give briefs or show up halfway through or something like that. But yeah, and then we'll hit OK, and then we'll go into our Zeus here, and the variable name is what we're going to want to change. Just want to make sure it's the exact same thing. So capital A is what I did. For this one, we'll double check. Yep, capital A. Cool. Save it. And then we load in. Awesome. So when you load in and you're testing it in single player, the AI will still spawn no matter what, even if you have the no AI selected. When you run it in multiplayer though, you won't have the AI pop up like this. It'll just be you. So we'll go ahead and check out the arsenal. Yeah, looks like the M4. Yeah, so the saw and the M4 unfortunately did not copy over, which is fine. We can add those manually. Yeah, to get into Zeus, you hit Y. It's gonna take it a second. Cool. Awesome. And you'll see everything's all here. If I right click, you see the edible objects that I was talking about earlier. You can do 250. It'll pop up everything. So if you need to delete a respawn because they lost a base or something like that, you can. And you can do that in Zeus if you have to. So we'll just go ahead and make sure that we have M4s in there. See if I can't figure out what variant it was. Yeah, okay. We'll give them all the cup variants of the M4 for them to choose from. Or the RHS version, sorry. And then we want the M249, I believe is what he had. To the RHS version on this as well, just to make sure it is the same one. Get the PIP variant and the regular M249 variant. Cool. And then that should be good. Okay, this is actually a good lesson, I guess. So this tent is floating. When I alt drag down, it won't go down to the point where it's touching the ground. If you need to do that, I actually double clicked it. If you need to do that, you can disable the vertical mode and surface snapping, and that'll allow you to smoothly drag this down. And then you can turn it back on, the object will stay. You can drag the box or whatever's inside, whatever you dragged, back down on top of it. Okay, that's the start to basic tips and tricks, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.